with the movies they're making today, you and me, we could definitely make a movie. We are basically entitled to a movie with the crap fest that they're constantly producing at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's gotten so bad. Like, Hollywood studios used to be such that they take they don't take chances, but they have to put out a certain quota of content that's just going to make them money, and it's going to be cookie cutter. And then they'll take a chance with like a really up and coming auteur director, and he or she will be given carte blanche, and there'll be a really great prestige picture or a blockbuster. But now it's like I think they have too much top down executive control over how they make their big franchise pictures. And I think the top down controls are also dictating like, look, if it isn't Star Wars, it's got to be a Marvel or DC movie. Like we're not pouring in a $500,000 or more, or a half a million, half a million. We're not going to give a $500,000 to anybody, but we're not going to give a $500 million or more to somebody unless they're doing some major franchise picture, and that just sucks. Like look back at the '80s for action movies that were so good, and such big budget blockbusters like all the Lethal Weapons, Predator, Terminator, Commando, Rambo. Like, okay, so there was a lot of overlap when it came to Arnold and Sylvester and their big hulking muscle, shirtless, running through the jungles and things with guns, sure. But at the same time, like you had these buddy cop pictures written by Shane Black and Philip D'Souza that they take chances on, and like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon and stuff like that. I mean, they don't do that anymore. It's
Yeah,
kind of
I
like
don't know. I don't know what the problem is.
here's $20 million, make a movie, but make it cookie cutter so that we're guaranteed some return on our investment, and it's like,
Yeah.
and that's a problem too. It's like independent filmmakers or people given those $20 million who knock it out of the park. Immediately, they're given 500 million minimum to make the next great big blockbuster franchise, and they don't have any ability to do that. Like they haven't. They've made a really good movie. They're clearly up and coming auteurs, but Ryan Johnson makes Looper, and everybody likes it. And before that, he made a really not low budget, but a minimal budgeted neo noir, kind of a parody in a way, and everybody thought it was unique. And all of a sudden, he gets to make a $1 billion Star Wars movie. It's like big mistake. But anyways,
Looper the one where the guy time travels and kills himself or something?
yeah, there's these loopers who how the hell does it work? They're assassins, and they're people from the future come back to the past, and they get them to agree to do their dirty work, their wet work. Like crime syndicates will send back people they need killed, and the loopers will just wait. They'll show up at this one particular point in time, and they immediately kill them. And the way it works is you do the job until you're sent back. You kill yourself, and we give you a ton of gold, and then you get to live out your life until the point where we send you back and you're killed, like in your mid 60s to 70s or some early 70s or something like that. And of
You
course,
do the
Bruce.
job until. Oh, so you go back to kill Hitler. So you've done that. How do you get the
No,
money?
no, it would be more like someone comes up to you today and says, Jeff, we're from the year 2045. We're a crime syndicate. It's easier for us to execute people if we just apprehend them, we kidnap them, and put them in a time machine, and they go back to your time, and you kill them, and just leave them. There'll be no motive. There'll be no reason for why these people are dead. There's no no one will know
Oh,
who
so
they
they
are. They're
send
from the
someone back
future.
to me, and then I kill them.
Right, and the way it works is you don't get anything, but notification of when and where to be, and you kill these people, and your job is done once we send back a person who is you in the future, and we'll send them back with a bunch of gold. That is your payout, and you kill them. And you see the gold, it's you, and then you're done, and you get to live for the next 30 or 40 years until you come into our future and we send you back to be killed.
So you kill. So it's like they send Khan from the Wrath of Khan back to me. I kill him, and then future Jeff, the 70-year-old, comes back, gives me gold, and then I kill 70-year-old future Jeff.
Pretty much, except he comes back with the gold bag. He's got a bag over his head, and he's got the pouch of gold like hanging from his neck or something. I can't remember. It's on his person,
Oh, so he's
and
dead, but he gives me the gold.
no, he's alive. It's
Okay.
you, He
Okay.
shows up, you kill him instantly without thought, without any hesitation, and then you see that he's carrying that pouch. You look, it's gold. Okay, this is you, and you're supposed to just take it and walk away. And then you have the next few decades to just live with that payout. And you know at some point in time they're going to come to get you and send you back in time, and some other looper will kill you.
Oh, okay.
Or no, you will kill yourself.
Yeah, you kill
That's
yourself.
anyways. It's the time paradoxes abound in that, but they try to address it. But everyone's like, they finally answer the question: how is it that you can kill yourself, and all these time paradoxes can occur? And Bruce Willis's character says something like, don't ask so many questions. You'll just you'll drive yourself crazy trying to figure it out. And people are like, that's the definitive answer. No, it isn't. I mean, there's more of a metaphysical explanation, I'm sure, but this movie was being touted as the movie that definitively answers the question of time paradox, right? Like, you're sent back to yourself, and that kicks off your life. But how does it work? I don't know. But
So,
but the answer.
so what movie are we watching today?
We're watching Beerfest.
Obviously.
Yeah, we're gonna transition to the movie we're watching today, which is not anything close to hard sci-fi and nothing to do with big budget, bloated studio pictures with inexperienced auteur directors helming them. We're gonna watch Beerfest, which is, I think, a classic comedy from about 11 years ago, and it's one of my favorites. And it's appropriate because I am 4 beers in, and I'm intending to drink another 5 beers throughout the viewing, and let's see how. The slight intoxication to, well, I don't know what you call it, not significant intoxication, but the slight to moderate intoxication. I think those are synonyms. I don't know. I'm too drunk to know the difference. But the slight to moderate intoxication affects the commentary. You'll hear me drinking throughout, and I might smoke the occasional cigarette, but the movie's appropriate because it's all about drinking beer. Literally, the premise is these guys get into a beer drinking contest with a bunch of Germans. I think it's hilarious.
Spoilers. I've never seen this movie before.
That's the premise.
Okay,
The premise
let's
starts
start
with
the
the beer
movie.
drink.
Okay, before there's any more spoilers. Okay.
But I will say this, and it's no spoiler, and you'll like it, because I think it's the antidote to Babysitter for you, because we haven't uploaded this commentary yet, but we watched the movie Babysitter, and you thought it would be full of sexy chicks and nudity and stuff, and there was like no nudity. This movie's got both of those things, so it's right up your alley, it's right up my alley, and the theme of drinking while providing commentary, it fits perfectly. And it's a classic comedy. I think it's underrated, and it will be.
Okay, let's get this show started. Okay. 5.
Okay, but hold on, I don't have it ready. Okay. Yeah, Beerfest. 5,
4, 3,
3,
2, 1.
go.
Play.
Okay, Warner Bros. Logo coming up.
For Beerfest.
Do, 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 ba, ba,
And I've never seen this before, and Dave has seen it, so there's not going to be any spoilers.
And sync the Warner Brothers logo song up to my singing the song. It's pretty close. Legendary film logo, too. I heard the commentary for this movie. They said that one of the guys in the movie said he watched it with his kids, and they were too scared to watch the movie because of the Legendary Films logo. It's all flaming, and it's this weird emblem. They're kind of scared of it. But the movie's such a goofy, farcical comedy, right? Oh, I wonder, this disclaimer, too. Warning, the performers in this film are professionals. Please do not attempt these activities at home. If you attempt to drink this much, you will die. I actually, this movie, I'm not going to lie, it got me into some problems with alcoholism for a while. I would try to drink along, and I'm going to do so tonight. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Alcohol has not ever ruined a single life. Time to crack one of these beers. Here we have Paul Soder, MC Gainey.
Oh.
And who's the dude? Is that the guy who's Gunn from Angel? Sitting there?
I
always skip past
from the
this.
Angel TV show?
Yeah, Gunn. Full disclosure, I never watched this. I skipped right ahead to the beginning of the recruitment for the beer drinking team. So I haven't seen this in years. Not that guy.
And another thing is I don't drink alcohol at all. But
oh, yeah, that's it, too. I meant to say that. You're a total teetotaler. Total teetotaler.
yeah, I like tea.
No, that's not Gunn. MC
Why doesn't
Gainey,
he
though,
want to
is.
drink that beer? Why doesn't he
It's not
want
that he doesn't want to. He has to flip the quarter into the tiny. There you go. They're playing quarters. The way it works, as I understand it, I've never played beer games because it requires minimal drinking. You have to wait to drink, right? And it just makes me want to lose. But he has to flip the quarter on the table and land it in the cup. And if he does, everybody drinks. But he has to flip it into this tiny little urn that holds flowers. And here's the big reveal. MC Gainey is playing drinking games. They're gambling. It's seedy. And who's MC Gainey? Here we go.
What is he, the priest in Brandon, Manitoba?
Well, look, I'd rather have my priests indulging in alcohol than the other things priests indulge in. But yeah, it's funny.
Well, yeah, the priest in Brandon, he took like $200,000 and kept going to Vegas for quote unquote massages.
Well, he needs physical therapy, right? Like it's a tough job. It's stressful. He's got knots in his back.
And then I was like, he's going there. And then the thing that's really funny is like they like catch him, and then it says in the newspaper, and then he just paid it right back. It's like when Mr. Burns has to buy that Statue of Justice, and he pulls the cash out of his pocket. So he just pulled more money that he took out of the church and paid the church back.
And that's crazy. It's like governments having to pay back debts when, like, where's the money come from? Oh, all the people I took it from. Did I tell you the story about the superintendent at Dauphin? He's not there anymore, but he was there from, I think, 2005 to like 2000, maybe 12. He was this guy who was disgraced in the Maritimes, I think Prince Edward Island. He had 3 or 4 contracts going, and he was making over $1 million a year as a superintendent. And because someone was honoring the contracts, he was legally in the clear. But he was taking from homeowners tax, which pays that's where the money comes from, as I understand it, in Canada for education. He was taking it from this tax, these coffers. He was taking over $1 million a year, like $1.2 million. And of course they fired him, but they couldn't prosecute him. So he's disgraced. He's clearly doing something wholly unethical, but they can't put him in prison. So he's this disgraced superintendent. Who hires him up immediately? Mountain View School Division in Dauphin, Manitoba. That's how much integrity they have at that school division. I don't know if I should say this really because who knows. But no, they've changed their whole structure. They have this corporate structure now. They don't have superintendents. They have CEOs and presidents and shit like that, and it's different people. Maybe they've learned their lesson. Anyways, back to the movie and my beer drinking.
It's like totally. But you have put the bar pretty high, because when we were watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, you said this is the greatest comedy ever made.
One of my top 5. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm picking comedies that are under the. Oh yeah, well that's the story, right? Like he has this beer recipe. He was the son of a brewmaster, and he chugs beers. And his grandsons see themselves as heavy beer drinkers. And of course, that's
how he died? He pulled the plug?
He pulled the plug, but that's Donald Sutherland.
That's weird.
I can't say enough about Broken Lizard. They're one of the greatest comedy troupes ever. And this movie
So who's Broken Lizard?
Underrated.
That guy?
The two guys are part of Broken Lizard. Paul Soder and Eric Stolansky.
Donald Sutherland was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right?
The movie, yeah. He was Giles, or the equivalent of Giles.
Well, I remember
I
think one actor, I think this was at a thing, James Marsters or someone was saying that the TV show was better than the movie, and that he was just so much better, and I was like, no, it's not.
The TV show
is terrible compared to the movie.
You think so? I think they're like, what's the term? Non-overlapping magisteria. Two areas where there is, you keep them separate. They're both good in their own right. I don't know that you'd want to compare them.
Well, it's no Uncle Buck, the TV show, but...
You know what's funny? I thought there was an Uncle Buck too in the early 90s. But I know there was a Ferris Bueller, but I thought there was a bunch. Oh, there was Parenthood, Ferris Bueller, And I was sure there was an Uncle Buck comedy too, but now there's this. That's done, right? That's not still on TV,
This
right?
this looks like quite the party. I kind of want to. I
Well, that's just it, right? This is Oktoberfest, but it's nothing compared to Beerfest.
So Beerfest is a fictional thing, isn't it? Like
Uh,
October.
Oktoberfest is real.
Yeah, Beerfest is not. Oktoberfest is a beer fest, but there is no thing called Beerfest.
It's not. Beerfest is a competition, and it's very seedy, right?
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I don't know.
Okay, this is. I'm
I don't
expecting
think.
Revenge of the Nerds. That's what I'm expecting from this movie.
Um, Kind of. They're the underdogs. Americans are seen as pretty shitty beer drinkers, so they're going to prove everybody wrong, right?
Yeah, these two guys are kind of. They're pretty kind of putting out the dad vibe.
Yeah, that's just it. One of them is a married family man, and the other isn't. But they're kind of milk toast. Kind of. I like the term milk toast.
Yeah.
That guy was in
Are you-
Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles. He was one of the Terminators.
I hear some sort of alarm. Is that at your place or mine? Or a
Um,
car alarm.
I don't hear a car alarm in my place. You know what
Oh,
we
it
did
must
hear the
be.
last
Uh-oh.
commentary? The train went.
Whoa!
Oh, there you go, Jeff.
Holy.
Just for
Whoa.
you. It's so
Cool.
gratuitous, though, right? Like, this is clearly, all right, you want more titties in our movie? We'll give you them. And it'll be obvious.
Oh, you know that guy should be Cliff Clavin from Cheers.
Yeah, he's actually, he's not a stuntman, but he's always in action movies, eh? Jürgen Prochnow.
They hit the little kid.
You know what's funny? That actor Jürgen Prochnow, he played Arnold Schwarzenegger, eh, in the A&E Arnold Schwarzenegger biopic.
Oh, that's kind of abstract.
And I believe there's
Or,
another
I
actor
don't know if
in
it's
this who's a
abstract.
bodybuilder who. But there's another actor, I believe, who's one of the bodybuilder brothers of the Germans, who's this guy's or Jürgen Prochnow's grandson, I think, who was also the young Arnold when he was in bodybuilder shape. Although I might be wrong.
So is Broken Lizard only 2 people?
No, Broken Lizard is 5 people. And
Okay, so you
here's
gotta
what
tell me who
happens.
the other ones are.
Yeah, this is the I guess prologue. This is how they get involved with Beerfest, and so then they assemble a team of beer drinkers, and that consists of. Oh, but here's the thing: they assemble a team of beer drinkers that consists of all the Broken Lizard guys, but they're not in the movie for at least a half an hour or so. So they give them bit parts here, and you'll see the entire of the troupe as they're walking into the Beerfest, like in really kooky characters, like kind of oddball, creepy characters.
Okay, no spoilers.
Like, watch. I wonder if this is a real facility or they just added mirrors in the background to make it look like it extends onto infinity. That's Kevin Heffernan, one of the members of Beerfest, or one of the members of Broken Lizard.
Oh, that person's grinding
making
up
the
people.
sausage.
Oh, and then there's
Um,
some weird blind.
I'm not sure which one member of Beerfest that is. Or
Yes.
member, there's Steve Lemmy.
Oh, this has got to be one of them.
I'm gonna keep calling them
So is
members
he one of
of
the
Beerfest.
lizards?
Yeah, Steve
That's
Lemmy.
one of the broken lizards, right?
Yeah, I'll keep calling them members of Beerfest. So we saw Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan, and I want to say, oh yeah, it has to be Jay
That
Chandrasekhar
is that
because
guy
no, the guy who looked like the, I guess what would be the proper
from that
nomenclature?
orange
The
Clockwork
Arab
Orange,
person? No, the Arab person
the Arab
was Jay
person.
Chandrasekhar.
Oh, okay. So the
Yeah,
Arab guy is one of them, and the weird gimp
but just
guy.
for the sake of cultural, racial, ethnic sensitivity, I was like, I don't want to immediately leap to the conclusion that the one Indian member of the group is playing the Arab member or the Arab cast member or character.
Whoa, you cut out there for a sec. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I was saying for the sake of cultural sensitivity, I didn't want to leap to the conclusion that the one Indian actor in the troupe is playing the Arab character. Like the person of color
So
is the
this is
character who's
Beerfest
a person
here.
of color. This is Beerfest. So it's like every country of beer drinkers participates, right? And America is considered the worst. Like I don't even think they have a team because American beer drinkers, they drink shitty beer and they don't drink enough of it.
This movie is really like the
Monkey
exact opposite
coitus.
of myself. I,
What's
I hate
that?
bars and I hate bar culture.
You like a particular type of bar, as you've made clear in these commentaries.
Yeah, I like strip bars, but
And I like bars where it's just lots of booze for a decent price and no atmosphere. Sheepshaggers.
sheep shaggers. Oh, sheep shaggers.
Sheepshaggers.
Yeah, this movie does have that grandma's boy vibe. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, but
Or
this movie is way
is that
better than
it's
Grandma's Boys.
okay.
Grandma's Boys
Just
was
so you know, I
funny though,
have
right?
window.
Like,
Whoa, there is a lot of boobs in this one.
I suspect that this movie and Grandma's Boys, made around the same time, are going to be seen as cult classics, in 20 years. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, and they're consistently funny. The gags are great. The plot is minimal, right? Like, here's a beer drinking competition. We put together the underdog American team. It's got the Rocky kind of structure to it, and they compete.
It's a vehicle
And
for
the acting
jokes.
talent in this movie, the acting talent in this movie is insane. Will Forte, and why am I blanking on his name? But one beer drinker, the guy who just drank previous to that guy that he's hugging, he won an Academy Award for writing a movie. And
Oh,
I
the
always want to call him Dax Shepard, but that's not him. But these like action stars who are bodybuilders are also, they knock it out of the park. This movie's so underrated, it's criminal.
huh.
Oh man, I hate to say it, but these goddamn
Oh,
beers are
that's
going
the
right to my
relatives.
bladder. Okay, the guy on our left that he's pointing at directly won an Academy Award.
Which one? The German dressed guy?
Yeah, him,
That guy?
him. I'm blanking on his name though. He's great though. He's amazing. He's in every Broken Lizard movie except for Super Troopers.
And what is
And
he?
he's
What movie did he win the Academy Award for?
The Descendants, I think, with the guy who was
I thought
another
he was in
actor.
La
He's
La
on the
Land
show
for a
Community.
second.
Mm-mm. And that's Will Forte, one of the best cast members of Saturday Night Live ever. Again, doesn't get his due, but he's on a major popular sitcom right now.
You know, when I was walking on a bridge today and I saw some graffiti and like the letters were F N L, and then I was like, huh, and then I thought, oh, they must mean Friday Night Live, and then I kept walking.
Clearly, Friday Night Live.
I I didn't. I watched that show so little. I thought it just occurred to me now that it was Saturday Night Live.
Yes. Well, there was a show called Fridays, and it was the counterpart to Saturday Night Live, right? It wasn't Friday Night Live, but it was supposed to be the counterpart. It only lasted a few years. So, man, I gotta go take a what do you call it? How do we say this to so that we don't have to put a content warning? I'm going to urinate. I'm gonna expel urine from my bladder. I'll be back in like 30 seconds.
Fourth best. I've noticed in the background there's a lot of pictures of older men with like 20-year-old girlfriends for some reason. Uh, I'm having fun. We fear change. Weep, weep, weep.
Great job filling up the content there. Making our content quota. I could hear in my headphones, because my headphones play the movie, but I'm like way down the hall taking a whiz, and it was like you asked the question that I couldn't answer, and then you laughed, and then you, there you go.
I made a reference to Wayne's World.
Exactly. This is great. I mean, this should be making us tons of money. I don't know why we don't have more subscribers. We don't promote ourselves at all, and we're really awful at what we do. But you know, our sarcasm is clear enough. This always makes you want to drink beer, though. It can't not. I'm surprised you're not like saying I have to step out to buy myself like six packs, so I have 36 beers, and I'm gonna drink them while watching this. Like for me. And the problem with this movie is though, when they chug really fast, it's like CG animated beer, and you can clearly tell.
Oh, it is?
Not there, but when they get to certain points where they have to chug particularly fast. And the thing is, they're not drinking real beer, but they're drinking real liquid. And so some of the actors, I think Will Forte in particular, he chugged a beer real fast and everyone's like, wow, this guy's great. But then he's like, yeah, I guess I can do it. And he did it a second time and he immediately went outside of the studio and vomited all over the place.
Well, if you drink, I've
Also,
heard today that if you drink a gallon of water too quick, you'll die.
Oh, is that because of that contest they had on British radio called Hold Your Wee? Where it was like everyone had to drink water and the winner was the person who refrained from urinating long enough, and somebody actually died because of a ruptured bladder. No, that's true. And but
It
I
doesn't
think I don't know if it was
counteract
a
the
gallon.
laugh.
I think there's a principle.
Oh,
Somebody
I'm
died.
sorry I laughed.
But yeah, that's a real thing. No. Yeah, okay. I'm always there's three scandals. One, no, there's a contest where people were supposed to drink a gallon of milk, and the principle is there's no way your stomach can hold that much. So if you win the contest, you can't win the contest. That's the paradox, because you'll drink it really really fast, but by the time you get to like the second liter, 2.5 liters, you're already vomiting it up. But then there was this hold your wee, and somebody died of a ruptured bladder. But there was also this thing that happened where somebody was swimming and they inhaled water in their lungs, and you don't notice it until it somehow causes your lungs to collapse, and it's called dry drowning. Like later on, it was a kid. It was really sad, but the kid was swimming and inhaled a little bit of water, but not enough to choke, and it went right to the bottom of his lungs, and it just caused his lungs to collapse. And because he couldn't get medical attention, he couldn't breathe. But he drowned. Literally, he drowned in his bedroom, like hours later. And it was the weirdest thing. I don't know why I'm even telling this. It just reminded me of the problem of like water and consumption and things like that. But yeah, anyways, let's get back to a more...
Did they throw his grandfather's ashes in their face then? That's what it looked like. They threw crap on him, and then they dumped the ashes on him, and then they said, here's some money for your grandmother, the whore, and then punched him out.
Yeah. And this is where the movie really kicks into high gear. This is where they're like, we're going to
I don't know. And you're saying this is the same level as Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
If not a better comedy.
You do like Kentucky Fried Movie.
Oh, yes. Kentucky Fried Movie, but it's nothing like this. Kentucky Fried Movie is an entity unto itself. But, again, I think it satisfies your criterion of massive boobage.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about the nudity.
But you've amplifies the quality.
Set the bar high, though.
But I should say, before anything else, Broken Lizard, all these insights I'm giving into what happened behind the scenes and shit, like it's the part of the commentary that people who have nothing to do with the movies talk about when they do commentaries, where it's just out of some other commentary or, you know, that information that the people who work on these things have, and they pawn it off as like their own insights. It's not mine. This all came from the podcast Chewin' It, that is a podcast where the actors aren't on screen, but the members of Broken Lizard, who are Kevin Heffernan and Steve Lemmy, do a podcast, and they give all these insights into what it was like to make these movies. So like the story about Will Forte puking, that comes directly from Chewin' It, which is, again, because I love Broken Lizard, one of the greatest podcasts out there, available on the Nerdist Network. Okay, this too. Watch this. This is a brilliant comedic move. You never see this. Did you see that? He quotes a line from I believe, well, one of the Rambo movies. But the line is, They want a war, we'll give them a war they won't believe. But he does the impression of Sylvester Stallone, but only on the last syllable. They want a war, we'll give them a war they won't believe. You know? Classic.
It's hard for me to notice because I'm doing two audio tracks at the same time.
Oh. Okay, that's Kevin Heffernan. He's on
that's
the
one of Broken
podcast.
Lizard. The fat guy's one of the Broken Lizards.
Yeah. You think that guy's fat?
Yeah.
I always look at this guy
and I'm 190
he's got
pounds.
a bit of a gut, and he's got a bit of a chin, a double chin, but he probably only weighs maybe 30, 35 pounds more than the other guys.
No, I think you're a genius because you can't make a lamp.
What was that?
That's from Breakfast Club. He's like, you think I'm dumb because I can't make a lamp? No, I think you're a genius because you can't make a lamp.
That's a funny line. I gotta watch that movie again. We'll do more John Hughes movies down the line.
This guy is what I call soft. When I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, it's like, oh, it's Marshmallow Man or something. When I'm in karate class, I'm like, I've gone soft.
You think Kevin Heffernan is soft?
Look at his face. He looks soft.
He's the best beer drinker on the team.
I don't care if people can ingest substances.
That's the thing, though. He doesn't take any shit, and he takes what he wants, and he might look clean cut, but man, he's the guy who whips everybody else into shape, especially Steve Lemmy's character. You know, they start off with this sort of antagonistic relationship or this dynamic, and then Steve Lemmy teaches Kevin Heffernan a thing or two about sensitivity, and Kevin Heffernan teaches Steve Lemmy's character a thing or two about standing up for himself and taking control.
NIH Laboratory.
There's Steve Lemmy, the other member. Oh, there's gonna be a train in the background.
So this was the guy dressed in that weird suit.
I think he's the guy. Yeah, the weird. No, the guy who kissed. Yeah, he was kind of effeminate and wearing makeup, and he had a big dildo hanging off. Oh man, can you hear that train in the background? Anyways, the thing is, he's Latino, and he's playing a Jewish person. I don't know that you could pull that off.
Stroke. He's like masturbating a frog.
But he's also playing like a stereotypical Jewish character. And he does it really well. And I thought for the longest time, oh, he's Jewish. But he's not. He's, I think, I don't want to say half Italian, half Puerto Rican. But he's Latino.
So he's Jewish to the same extent as that Indian guy from the Ernest movie was Indian?
No, because his whole life he didn't spend immersed in Jewish culture. He's basically as Jewish as C. Thomas Howell was black in that movie where C. Thomas Howell wore blackface.
Toad load.
But it's funny though, right? Like, I'm not an academic like the type that works in a laboratory. But if I had a bunch of formalism on a chalkboard, like a bunch of logical derivations or something, and I had written them out and I needed them, and somebody came and just erased all of it, I would not be like, hey, don't do that. Like, he looks at this guy who's erasing like all of their important information on the board. He's like, don't do that. Like, that's it, man. Your work has gone down the tubes unless you remember that all. Like, can you imagine if Kurt Gödel had done his incompleteness proof on a chalkboard and somebody came and erased it? Like, you'd be, pulling out a gun and capping somebody.
So who's the fifth one is the Arab guy?
No, he's not. He's Indian, but he's not Indian. He's American, but his parents are Indian. Jay Chandrasekhar, who's Barry Badranath, the male prostitute who's fallen on hard times.
Was he the guy in White Castle movie?
No, that was Cal Penn.
Oh.
I think that's his name.
Because that was made around the same time as this, wasn't it?
Roughly, yeah. And then the sequel.
Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think Harold and Kumar go to Guantanamo Bay.
The second one's no good, but the White Castle one's really good.
I've never seen it, actually.
Oh.
I guess I should.
Oh, here he is. Oh, him. Okay. Oh, this is... He's on hard times. Classic line. But listen to this offering his services. Barry Badranath.
Finky? That's good. What's a ZJ?
No, he said Z, didn't he?
Yeah, ZJ, right? And it's like, what's a ZJ? If you've got an ass, big man, you can't afford it. But this guy who's like
That's not a good idea.
But look, this is comedy writing and comedy composition that you don't see anymore. Yeah, there's jokes being thrown around, there's characters interacting, but let's throw in a kooky, wacky character who's also a male prostitute who's like, hoo-hoo, shit like that. Like, this guy just acts his face off. Like, watch what happens when they throw the quarters.
If this movie was Frankenhooker, it would be disrespectful to women.
But it's all men that we're disrespecting, so good stuff. Watch this. Watch his reaction. It's like, they fight over the corner, and he's like, like it's so good.
Yeah, it's not planes, trains, and automobiles get to your heart kind of humor. It's more this is closer to South Park style humor.
It's basically the formula is establish these characters and who they are immediately, and then get to the joke. It's a vehicle for joke movie, but you do come to root for the characters, and they're all endearing. But like, there's shit going on, and like, okay, like you can see a script where someone's like, and then Barry breaks a bottle and threatens them. That's all you write. This is up to the actors to make funny. He
Yeah,
breaks it
yeah.
over his head, and starts yelling, "Go here, go!" You know.
Yeah, there's a million ways to do basically every scene. Like it's just
And
like
and it's
singing music. Like every classical recording is vastly different, and that's just
Yeah,
notes.
but it's also perfect collaboration because the actor, I don't know his name, but he was in I believe he's in Parks and Rec, and he plays totally different characters. But the kind of kooky wacky prostitute guy, he reacts just perfectly. He runs away and he screams, you know. But it's like,
Did
and
you see
like
how he was
you're
throwing
set,
perfect darts?
yeah.
I was reading about the best dart player, and he played darts so much he got this special disease called dartitis, where he couldn't play darts anymore.
What's that, like tendonitis?
I don't know, but he just some psychological block. He just couldn't I don't know. His brain got in this zone where he's thinking too much about the whole process of throwing the dart, and he couldn't throw a dart
Ah,
anymore. I don't know. Be like
so it's
thinking
this
about
mental
breathing.
game.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
I'm thinking like just throw so many darts, you get like a tendonitis, and it's like I can't do it. That happened to me when I worked as a lumberjack one time.
I like that response. We're gonna need a trade, and the guy's like, "Whoa, it's just a shitty garage."
But like, see, it's like, okay, let Kevin Heffernan go to town doing crude things with the puppet, and then we cut in with Steve Lemmy's character shouting. Like, okay, it's one thing to say he does crude things. Most comedies would be like, okay, good enough, and people are like, don't do that. But then Steve Lemmy's character seems to really like it. That's a nice touch, comedy-wise. Like, what if the one character was really turned on by that and really encouraging? Yeah, fuck it, give it a rim job, you know, like that. Look, I can't say enough positive things about this movie from a comedy standpoint. A fan of comedy, you know, as a fan of comedy. Like, I'm not funny. I can't do this kind of shit, but I certainly appreciate it. But also, this is the product of five guys who collaborate, know each other well, and just riff, right? And they're like, that's funny, we'll put it in the movie, right? Yeah. For syncing purposes, we're coming up on the song. I don't know what it is, but it's like, hard as a rock, hard, da, da, da. And it's about to start as soon as I say go. That song starts, and you can sync it up there.
You've got to sing the song.
Hard as a rock, but it's not on yet. I don't know what the band is, but it's like classic rock. Here we go.
Hard as a rock, hard as a rock.
There you go. Sync it up to that.
Hard as a rock.
See, like, Kevin Heffernan's character is already ready to go.
Who's that? The guy,
The
the
fat
guy who
guy
I
is-
called Softy.
Softy, although he's hard as a rock. What could go wrong with a movie that the premise of which is five guys train for a beer drinking contest? The answer is nothing can go wrong. It'll be comedy gold, and it is. So I
Oh.
guess the only difference here in this commentary, considering I've been drinking, is that I'm very complimentary. But I think this would be exactly what you'd get if I were stone cold sober, because this movie is too good to be true.
I forget if I mentioned that my windows are open, and I live next to a pretty busy part of town, and I have this like I leave my windows open so that my theory is at some point some beautiful woman's gonna walk down and be like, "Hello, looks like there's a guy working on his computer with a microphone. I'm gonna zoom in for a bit of details." And the window's open a crack. "Hello, sir. What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm making a podcast." It's like, "Really? Can I come in?" It's like, "Yeah." I don't think that's
It's
gonna
funny that
happen.
it could. Let me tell you something. Remember when you and I were roommates?
Yeah.
Okay. Remember how I would drink beer from time to time, and I like to smoke a few cigarettes when I drink my beers, and I'd go out into the front and I'd smoke my cigarettes. One night at that place we were roommates in, I was out front at the sidewalk and I was just smoking a cigarette. And these two like young, pretty girls walked by, and this was like minus 20-degree weather. But you could tell they were like all bundled up, but still wanted to look pretty. And they had like super tight legging type pants and stuff, and they were like all makeuped out and stuff. And they're like walking by, and they walk by, and then they stop, and then they back up and like, "Excuse me, you wouldn't happen to have a cigarette I could have, would you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I guess so." I give this one girl a cigarette. She's like, "Thank you." It's like, "You want a light?" "Sure." And I light her cigarette. And then they're walking away. I'm like, "Does your friend want a cigarette?" And she's like, "Yeah, why not?" And they came back, and I like gave her a cigarette and lit it. And then they're kind of standing there. But then me, being the typical social elite that I am, was like, "Okay, good night." And then I kind of went in the house. But like that shit does happen. It was like, why like in the middle of Manitoba, a Manitoba winter where it's super cold, two like hot chicks walk by who are like maybe like 22 years old, and they're like kind of hanging out with me all of a sudden in the middle of like nowhere where there's an apartment complex. But yeah, then I just walk away. That could happen, especially if
is,
it's a busy part of town.
is that his
You
wife? This
never
woman?
know. Yeah, and a bit of trivia: she was dating the actor Steve Lemmy, who plays the Jewish character at the time.
Oh, it's in real life. She's dating that guy.
No, uh, Finkelstein, the scientist. You know what though?
So she was
I know
dating
I'm
him.
overweight. Him. I know I'm overweight, but that is kind of what happens to me when I drink. Like sometimes I get so intoxicated that I'll wake up with like, and I'll have eaten just tons of food,
Holy
and I don't
shit.
even realize it. I don't look like I'm choking, but
Okay, that's a funny scene. No, again.
I think that's from the movie Altered States or something. But I mean, that's you. You don't drink, so you can't relate to this. That's what happens. You don't kill deer, but you'll like wake up next to a bunch of food and you're like, I could have choked to death. Or you'll like wake up on the floor, or you'll wake up and you don't know where you are.
For me,
Like
the
one time I
closest thing
was,
would be drinking too much caffeine close to bedtime, and then I have a slightly bad sleep, and then I regret it in the morning.
which is nothing like beer, man. Nothing like boozing. You got to just start drinking alcohol heavily. I mean, you need to. Everybody
I,
needs
I
to.
was so addicted to Diet Coke, I would be really afraid to have another substance in my life.
Yeah, if you have an addictive personality, you should definitely start drinking because you'll drink a lot. But no, it's yeah. I mean, if you drink Coca Cola so much that you get so whacked out on caffeine that you can't sleep, well, and that's kind of common. One time, I was drinking a bunch of booze with my friends, and we were like, "Let's drink tons of coffee." That's a bad idea. My friends were like, I filled up a big gulp cup with like a half a thing of instant coffee and like hot water, and I chugged the whole thing. It was weird because I have a paradoxical reaction to most types of stimulants. They make me tired. I was dead tired, but my heart was beating like 180 beats per second. And I was just wanting to fall asleep, but I couldn't.
This
And I
is a
had these
funny scene.
weird dreams. Okay. I, forget about the movie. Let me tell you about coffee and booze. Yeah, you're right. Anyways, don't mix those things. Also, this is Cloris Leachman, one of the greats. She was Phyllis in Mary Tyler Moore, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. One of the best sitcoms ever made. I think I'm being incredibly complimentary, and I hate to think it's a product of the beers I've consumed. I've had about 7 or 8 so far, but like, really, that show was so good, and she made it so good. And then the problem was they gave all the great characters on that show their own spin-offs. There was Phyllis, and there was Rhoda, and shit like that, and they went away. And the sitcoms didn't do so well. Rhoda was okay, but they left the show. That was a bummer. I am Monique. She won an Academy Award, or at least was nominated for one. This movie's just filled with like talent up the yin yang.
When I'm old, I'm not going to be able to afford an assistant.
Uh, I don't know about that. I don't know. Maybe there'll be so many people in the country that, they'll work for. Maybe they'll abolish the minimum wage and you can hire an assistant who will do a decent enough job and they'll be so happy to have it that, if you have a personal connection and you share your house and things like that, you could afford to pay an assistant who would live with you.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a house and then like have an assistant, like the Golden Girls.
They had an assistant on the Golden Girls?
Well, I'm sure like the 4 of them together could afford an assistant.
It's funny though; those women were just retirement age, right? Like they were in their like early mid-60s, but they look so old. Like I look at my parents today, and they're older than the Golden Girls were, except for Sophia's character. But like, I don't know. I don't see them as like these gray-haired women, Like my mom let her hair go gray, but it's not like completely gray or white even, and stuff. And like that's who we're supposed to believe that. These women were, and they were in their early 60s. People were so much older looking, even 20 years ago.
So
this is funny because these guys are about my age now, and they're walking into a first year, second year university type party, and that's the reaction you get. Like I'm a TA, right? And I know that these kids look at me and they're like, "Who's this old fogey?" you know. Again, another perfect comedic touch. One of the girls at the party sees that and she's licking her lips like that is so sexy.
yeah.
Ha ha ha. But also, a bit of trivia. Bill Gerber was, I think, the producer of this movie and one of the executives at Warner Brothers.
What next? Harvey Weinstein?
I think they did. I think their first movie was Miramax, or at least it was an independent movie, and it was bought by Miramax, distributed. So they know Harvey Weinstein. You listen to the podcast Chewing It, and I think I'm pretty sure, and I hope I'm not mistaken here. There's a lot of talk about Harvey Weinstein, and it's perfectly complimentary. And it's such an anachronism now, right? Like also I listen to old podcasts even from like 3 or 4 years ago, and people are like, Bill Cosby is the comedy legend. He's my favorite comedian. I love Bill Cosby. He's inspired me so much. And it's like these conversations that you cannot have today, without disclaimers, like massive disclaimers. And yeah, they talk about Harvey Weinstein the same way. Oh, I should mention we're gonna put up our Harvey Weinstein episode, and I need to point out that we recorded that at the time when it seemed like Harvey Weinstein was only guilty of asking women to watch him while he masturbated into houseplants and stuff like that. Like it wasn't made apparent that Harvey Weinstein had been like forcefully raping women like Asia Argento. So yeah, that's just a bit of a not a disclaimer. I guess the disclaimer is this: we didn't know that Harvey Weinstein was essentially as bad as Bill Cosby, but in that commentary, at some point we say he's not as bad as Bill Cosby. From what we knew, he wasn't, but from what we know now, he is.
Well, from what we
So
know now,
there
I
you
don't
go.
think he's as bad as Cosby still. Is he? I don't know.
Yes. I mean, just ask yourself, what would you rather have happen? Someone gives you a drug and has intercourse with you in a way that's somewhat gentle, but obviously a huge violation, or would you rather someone pinned you up against the wall and forcibly had sex with you?
Oh, is
Like,
that what he did?
Harvey apparently. Well, didn't Harvey Weinstein do that to Asia Argento?
I got.
Like that's the thing.
I
He
have a
did.
problem with the Asia Argento because they had their relationship after, and there's like he like hired a babysitter for her, and they're in a long-term relationship and stuff. So,
Well, that's just it, right? Like, what do you make of the stories
like,
when you have the whole context?
yeah, well, like I read
Like,
when I read this thing about her raping Asia Argento, I got so angry because of she is the daughter of Dario Argento that I wrote him hate mail with my real name and mailing address and everything and physically mailed it to the corporation.
yeah,
So I don't know what's
handwritten
gonna happen
letter.
there. But I didn't threaten to kill them, but I said I hate your products, I hate your company, and all these things. But the more I thought about it, I think it's weird for someone to say he raped me and then to have a relationship later. But I don't understand all of the things. She said she needed money or something. I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, here's the problem, right? Like, there's clearly a possibility that people would be in such a weird relationship and such a weird dynamic that yes, they're abused horribly and they stick around.
Yeah,
But the problem
that's
is
a
a
good
lot
point.
of the
That people are
times,
in abusive relationships and so. Yeah.
but it's also the case that people are in these relationships. It's fine. They see it as like role play and sexual kink and stuff like that. But then in hindsight, you could describe it as abuse. Like the problem with the Jian Ghomeshi trial involving I can't remember her name, but she's the actress who was on Trailer Park Boys. Uh, like she claimed to have been horribly abused by him. Like she didn't consent to the sadomasochistic sexual role playing that he forced on her. But then she would send him like text messages the next day or after short order and saying like I'm thinking about your hands around my neck and I just enjoyed it so much. And it's like, well, what are you supposed to make of this? But the real problem is it's complex, right? Like human beings and their interactions. What was their mindset? What was the constraining factors? What was going on? Were they really consenting? Was it really not a problem? And they're just, in their mind making it worse than it was so that they can, accuse? Or was it really the case that that kind of abuse makes people subservient and they don't really know what to do? But people who are commenting are either saying she's lying, like she totally was into it, or people are saying she's not lying at all, and like blah 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 blah. Society is such that like women are subservient to men because they feel like that's a role they have to play, and we should really believe everything she says. Like, no, I'm sure there's an analysis to be made, but the conversation is controlled by people who just immediately
It's
discount
controlled
it.
by
Because
the New York Times.
well, that's it. The media picks up on it too, and it only gives
And
time
New
to
York
those with
Times
extremist
claims to
views.
speak for everyone. Like I was reading some article about Norway, and then Donald Trump said, "I wish more immigrants came from Norway. More of you should come to America." And then the writer of the article says, "These racist statements by Donald Trump or something like that are clearly at odds with Norwegian views on equality." I was like, I bet I could walk in Norway, and I bet I could find tens or hundreds of thousands of people who are racist, maybe millions of people who are
I think
completely more racist than whatever implication you can draw from that.
I think the problem was Donald Trump said, "Why do we need more Haitians? We should be getting more people from Norway." So here's the thing about Donald Trump. Here's
I'm
the two statements
Norwegian,
he made.
so I think it's funny.
Are you okay? But okay, he wasn't saying something racist about Norwegians. Like that was never an issue, right? Like he was pointing out. Here's the thing about Donald Trump, and here's the problem. He said two statements, and this is what he said. Something about, I don't know exactly what he said verbatim, and you can't substantiate that the claim that he said these things exactly. But he called countries like Haiti shithole countries, and that was one of the problems. He called Haiti a shithole country, and then he said, "Why do we want more Haitians? We should be getting people from countries like Norway." And so the claim was calling it a shithole country is racist, saying we shouldn't want people from Haiti, was a racist comment. But the problem was it's like this. The first comment was clearly crass, right? If he said it, it's crass. It's bad politics. He shouldn't have said it. But it wasn't racist. He called it a shithole country. But what is denoted by a shithole country? If you're talking about a country whose economy is in the toilet, a country that has problems with crime and poverty and
I think many Haitians would refer to their country as a shithole.
Well, that's just it, right? Like he used a stupid term to refer to a country that's in trouble. But shithole denotes a country that would be denoted by saying, look, it's a country that is in trouble, right? Like nobody's going to deny the state of Haiti. If a shithole applies to any country, it's Haiti, but it's so crass and it carries so much connotations. So it's not racist, but it's just a crass, stupid, bad politicking kind of way of going about describing the country. But the problem is everybody's latching onto it's a racist comment. The second comment was clearly bigoted. Why do we need more Haitians? Well, because quite clearly, even if the country is struggling and if the country's in trouble, there are many Haitian people who are perfectly upstanding and perfectly, whatever, good people, I guess you could say, for lack of a better description. And you don't paint everybody with the same brush because they come from a particular country. It was a bigoted statement, but it was bigoted towards a nationality. Now, is it a racist statement? Not on the face of it, because it's a bigoted comment about a nationality. It's nationalistic bigotry, you could say. But there's also the issue of, does Trump treat Haitians as though they have some essential property that makes them awful? I doubt that it's because the majority of Haitians, or the almost exclusively Haitians, are black people. I don't think it's racism against black people, but it could be racism in the sense that he believes they have an essential defect, and that's clearly racist thinking. Like you think of Hitler as the obvious example. He didn't have a problem with Jewish people because they were religiously Jewish or culturally Jewish. It's not like you could say, oh, I denounce my faith, and Hitler would be like, okay, you don't have to go to the concentration camp. Or they could say, look, I'm going to give up all of the cultural aspects of what it is to be Jewish. And Hitler was like, that's fine. Or the Nazis were like, that's fine. No, Hitler believed there was an essential feature to being Jewish, and that made you inferior.
But it wasn't just Hitler. Like, Hitler's not like this magical super brainwasher. Hitler wasn't by himself. There's millions and millions of people backing him, and
it was a common sentiment. Yeah, it was a common sentiment, and it was a populist point of view.
Like if Hitler had said that, the New York Times could say Hitler's clearly saying racist things. It doesn't reflect the views of Germany. Well,
but
apparently he did reflect the views of Germany at that time.
Look, there's racism because you make a generalization about all people because of their race. Whatever race is defined as, if you go after people because of their race and you assume generalizations that aren't true, and it's, you barrel on with those assumptions, then that's racial bigotry. But there's also a form of racism where you treat people as though they have an essential property that puts them in a category, and the essential property makes them inferior. Clearly, that was Hitler's MO. So I think Hitler's attacks on the Jewish community, Romana, Gypsies, and homosexual people and others, that was race-based because it functioned as a racism. Now you got to ask yourself the question, does Trump's attack on the Haitian people, is it nationalistic bigotry, or is it something that he believes there's an essential property to Haitian people that make them inferior, and then it's race-based in the same way that Hitler was race-based? It's a different, I don't want to say it's a different kind of racism.
You could say there's some cultural thing about Haitians too, that it's not genetic, that there's that they have some flawed culture or something. I would say that I'm not anti-Trump. Well, sometimes I'm really mad at Trump, sometimes I really hate him. Sometimes, like when he said he's going to cancel that healthcare thing, that was going to cost me a lot of money. But I would say, being honest, I would say that thing is racist that he says about. But I would also say that this isn't unique. Like the New York Times, this isn't reflective of the United States. But I can walk into this is the way millions or tens of millions of Americans think that he's This is a democracy, and he's actually reflecting the way huge portions of the population think. And then there's this other group of the population, the New York Times, that purports to speak for everyone. He doesn't reflect the views of America. Well, who does? The New York Times?
That's exactly right. You cannot make a generalization no matter how you slice it. But my distinction I'm drawing is, like, seriously, can you hit the pause button for a second on the movie?
No, we can't, because it'll desync it.
Okay, well, like, this is a scene you're probably going to enjoy.
Okay, we got it. Okay, we'll continue after this.
No, we can't, though. We can't. It's too serious a conversation. But here's your like one of the most beautiful women in the world does a
Holy
nude scene in
smokes.
a movie, and it's such an abrupt shift to go from like a serious conversation to, hey, check out them titties, you know, like that's so
Why is he
crass.
having sex with her? Did they meet in the bar? Holy
Yeah, and
shit.
he's drunk.
Holy, we've got Bush.
No, because they pan down. But okay, we're such sleazeballs, man. We're trying to. All right.
Okay, now you can continue your story. I would, yeah,
No,
I
we
like
can't.
that girl. I like her a
We
lot.
can't because he's drunk and he's with Monique and he pictured her as this incredibly gorgeous woman. And now here it is.
Oh, I will.
See, that's his image of her as he's intoxicated. Good God.
She's the other woman's not that bad. She's not. Holy shit. Okay,
Oh yeah, but she's no.
she's not a supermodel. Holy shit, she's good.
Holy shit, she's good. But it is comical, right? Like he's licking her fingers versus he's licking her toes.
But he is a male prostitute, so.
Well, that you know what's funny? They dropped that conceit immediately. Now he's just the guy who hooks up with a.
Okay, this is going into the concept of squirting and gushing, which I think is gross and is actually just a woman peeing. So
Who's squirting and gushing though?
I think it was implying that the bigger woman was squirting or gushing or something.
Yeah, apparently the science on the matter is settled. When you see that in pornography, okay, here's the physiological explanation. Some women orgasm so hard that it causes, if their bladder is full or partially full, they can't control it and they just urinate. But porno movies have made clear, like, nobody squirts. What happens is they put sponges saturated with water up there, or they actually just urinate. And they're like, you watch that YouTube series on porno horror stories, and like guys will be like, yeah, this woman would, her specialty was squirting, but she clearly would just urinate. She'd drink a ton of water and she'd urinate. And I'm doing this scene with her, and it's taking hours and hours because she would do this squirt every, like, 2 minutes, but she's peeing on me. And the room smelled so strongly of urine that I could barely focus. And it was like the worst thing in the world. That's really telling. Pornography is absolutely contrived. There's nothing real about it, right? And anyways, okay. That said, I want to make clear my point about Trump. It's either a bigotry directed at nationalities, or it's the kind of racism where Trump sees an essential inferiority property inherent in Haitians, where it's not necessarily because they're black, it's not necessarily because they're Haitians, but he just sees them as inferior because he's an intrinsic racist, would be the term. And that could be a very real possibility. But until you figure that out, you can't be like the New York Times and just barrel on with the claim that Trump is racist. What's really going on? But my main problem is there's no nuance in the conversation. At face value, it's of course not racist. But if you look at the actual motivation behind saying, why do we need more Haitians? It's clearly bigoted. Is it the type of bigotry that is the result of not liking Haitians for their nationality? Or is it the kind of bigotry that results in thinking they have an essential feature that makes them inferior? The latter is a type of racism, and that's far more severe. But you have to have the analysis, and no one's willing to conduct the analysis. So I wanted to make that point. And I don't know what to say about Trump. He's a big fat loudmouth. He's crass. He's not a good person, but he's obviously not as bad as people say he is. And the conversation is fucking way too simplistic and needs to have way more nuance.
He's funny, though. I have to admit he's funny.
But people are getting distracted by the things he says far too easily. No one's considering the things he's doing. Okay, he says this shit about Haiti. What's he actually going to do? Right? Like, he does everything that is basically the political status quo. He adheres to the political status quo. He maintains the political status quo, but he says horribly obnoxious things, and people get distracted. And what can you say about Trump? It's crazy. And you'll never know, because the only people who are going to really tell us what's going on refuse to approach the issue with any kind of nuance. I gotta go have another pee,
Okay.
so I'll be
The
gone for about
Germans are
30
here.
seconds.
Oh, holy shit!
So
Look at
go
those
ahead
zeros.
and tell us more about human physiology and squirting and shit, I guess.
Okay. Well, my theory about American politics is whatever president you get, it's like a puppet or something, and it's a distractor. So when you get a really far right or a far left politician, well, I don't know far left, but like Obama, what happens when Obama's in charge? He doesn't get that health care really going, not good enough, anyways. But America's political leaders get killed. There's lots of military successes in the Middle East. So Donald Trump, the left, the left really hates him. So he must so the right thinks, well, anything Donald Trump does is something that we're okay with. So I think that he's probably that I don't know, either he is or the CIA or something will implement a bunch of really far left policies and everyone will be okay with them because Donald Trump's in power. Back to the movie.
All right, I'm back. I should say you made a point about the both. You talked about the CIA and you talked about Trump's opposition, and how people who are politically partisan are absolutely against Trump if they're on the left. I think what's also unique about the Trump presidency is there's this phenomena that you rarely see in politics. The anti-Trumper phenomenon is, it picks out people who are Republican, people who are conservative, people who vote Republican for the most part, who said they'd never vote for Trump. So there's a significant subset of Republicans who don't support Trump at all, and we might see something that we didn't see since George Herbert Walker Bush, which is when Trump is the incumbent candidate and in the next election, you might see an actual Republican candidate try to run against him. Usually they don't, right? And it's just, well, like when with Obama, I think he ran unopposed on the Democrat side. But with Trump, there's likely going to be candidates throwing their hat in the ring trying to, take over the Republican ticket.
I still remember when he did that speech and he made fun of that guy who had physical disability.
He didn't, though. Okay, that's another thing. Like, did he do that? Because there's plenty of evidence to suggest that hand waving thing and the funny face he makes, he does for a lot of different people. I think that was an interpretation. But again,
Well,
there's no benefit of the doubt with Trump, right? Like, no one's going to say, look, we have to seriously consider this, and we don't have enough evidence, so we can't conclude. But no, Trump insulted somebody who had a disability because look what he did with his hand, this limp-wristed gesture, and he made a funny face. The problem was he does that consistently when mocking people.
well,
He's like,
Trump is German, isn't he?
I have no idea.
I think he is. I think his dad was like ran a brothel in the Yukon or something, or his grandpa or something like that. So, the thing about Germans and Germans aren't crybabies or pussies who can't take criticism is my coworker.
No way.
My coworker who's Dutch. He's like, German people are really rude. They'll just tell you right to your face. So I'm like, oh, and then it's like you see this in this movie too. The Germans are like, oh, you're like a weakling. You're stupid. And it's like, maybe that's like the German thing where it's like, if you have a problem, Germans are going to just tell you, yeah, you suck, or that's really bad. And
maybe
it's
maybe that explains. Maybe it's like an ethnic property that's, predominant among members of that ethnicity. I don't know. But Trump, they also say like Trump's forwardness and his crassness and his unwillingness to self-censor is a New York thing too, right? Like everybody points out, well, he's from New York, and maybe now the new theory is, or an explanation is, he's from, he's German by ancestry, and they don't pull any punches. But at the same time, politically speaking, you kind of have to. But what were we talking about? Oh yeah, you also mentioned. I was talking about the anti-Trumper phenomenon. We're going to see probably for the first time since George Herbert Walker Bush, the incumbent candidate in a presidential election, the current president, he's not going to go unopposed, at least in terms of there's going to be a Republican who's running against him. And that's what happened with George Herbert Walker Bush, I think. Like, I don't think he didn't even get the Republican nomination. And that's because there's this strange phenomena of people, so many people in his own party who don't trust him. We didn't see that with the left. We didn't see that with the Democrats. Everybody supported Hillary, absolutely. Even Bernie Sanders supporters. And Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton couldn't be more different. But all of a sudden, Bernie supporters were all in Hillary's camp, even Bernie. But with Trump, there were anti-Trumpers all along the way. So we're going to see this interesting rift here too. And you talked about the CIA. There's also that phenomenon now of the so-called deep state and how the CIA isn't actually an arm of the government. They're kind of operating autonomously, and their political biases are showing.
Operating. Well, my theory about the president is they don't really have a lot of power. Because, like, imagine if your job was, I say, like, managing a Walmart or something. Like, you couldn't go around flying around the world, having photo ops with rich people. Like, in presidents, it's not like they don't even write their own speeches, I don't think. They just read other people's speeches, then they do photo shoots. They're only in power 4 years. The last year, they're so worried about winning an election. So it just seems like some sort of bureaucracy, the CIA or something, is the one that's actually in charge. You couldn't run a McDonald's, you couldn't run a business and do the amount of screwing around that presidents have to do as part of their job.
You mean like the maintaining of an image?
Yeah, like just traveling, speech, photo op, opening a bridge, special event, traveling. You couldn't study to get a degree and with that kind of extracurricular activities. How are you going to run one of the largest economies in the world? It's so complicated.
Yeah.
I can barely even comprehend it. And oh yeah, I was elected in 4 years. Like, you can push through a few things, but he couldn't even push through the wall. We're going to build a wall. We're going to make Mexico pay. Where's this wall? I have friends in Mexico. I was pissed off by that wall thing, and I was pissed off on his health care things. I was so mad. I went and bought myself a Smarty Flurry. I'm like, this guy's going to cost me $6,000 a year because I'm going to have to start paying for a bunch of health insurance.
Again, you're right. You picked up on the idea is, I don't want to call it the theory is. People say theory too much, but people have pointed out presidents tend to fly under the radar for their first term. They make sure they protect their image. They get enough people on board. They have the supporters, but they don't alienate anybody. They ensure their second term, and then they go to town with their initiatives, right? Trump is not worried about his image at all. And I don't know if this is strategic on his part or accidental, and it's just the way it is, but people are so distracted by his tweeting and his being a big fat loudmouth that the people on the left who alienated people who would vote for Democrats normally are continuing to do it. I think he's ensuring his second term by constantly pissing off people with the things he says and really none of his initiatives have been enacted. He's faced major opposition. He's made claims and he's made attempts at executive orders, but he faces all of this opposition. But every time he tweets, that's what the news talks about for like a week, sometimes two, right? Like, all we've heard about are his racist claims. What is he doing as a president? He could say the most racist things in the world, but if that's all you're thinking about and talking about, the public is unaware of his actual initiatives. Like, apparently he passed this tax reform, and most people agree it's a good thing, right? Like, it's putting money in the pockets of everybody. The worst you can say is, well, the rich are getting richer. Yes, but everybody's getting richer, right? Like, and government's working as usual, so what's the complaints? And people get so distracted by his tweeting that and the fact of the matter is, people get distracted by his tweeting, and those who are in opposition of him, start to
Oh, he
you know,
died?
they alienate themselves more. Oh yeah, he died. We're watching a movie, but yeah. Here's the effect of
Well, you're
my
cutting out.
my getting.
Sorry, you're like half of what you're saying. I'm not able to hear. The phone cut out for now. I don't know why.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
I
maybe
don't
you
know.
got the wireless thing going on. Are you using a Bluetooth headset or something?
Just for audio, not for my microphone is what's picking up all that you should hear.
Oh,
Right? Like you're just fine. Am I still cutting out?
no, just you were like 2 or 3 times you cut out. I don't know.
Maybe it's because I'm like I keep setting my maybe I'm bumping the table or something. I don't know. Like I'm setting my drink down. I got this weird coffee table. It's got a top level and a bottom level. I put my drinks on the bottom level and I have my microphone on the top. So every time I shake it, maybe something cuts out. Like who knows? Okay, let's like fucking end this Trump thing though with some kind of closure. We have to do that, but we got to stop talking about it.
Okay, no more Trump. That's it.
Um, no, we can't just do that. We've left things hanging. Trump's a fucking anomaly. There's no doubt about it. But I think there's either he's very prudent and this is strategic on his part, or it isn't and he's just lucky. But he says bullshit on Twitter. He says bullshit that gets leaked to the press and people go nuts. But his initiatives go completely under the radar. And he does some really good things, like his handling of the hurricanes and stuff like that in the United States. They were handled incredibly well, way better than George W. Bush has done when they had a major incident. This is one of the worst hurricane seasons in American history, and the federal government really did what they had to do, right? And people forget about that. But the other things too, the healthcare, the wall, the transgender people in the military, that's a bad thing, but that's flying under the radar. There's no analysis, right? His tax reform, people are saying it's bad because the rich will get richer, but at the same time, if everyone gets richer, who really cares, right? And so, okay, all of the good, all of the bad fly under the radar because Trump said something that might be racist. Trump banged some porn star, and that's funny. I think that's hilarious. Trump bangs a porn star and he pays her to shut up about it, and nobody cares because what are they going to say? Like, you got to go after Clinton. You got to go after, Kennedy retroactively. Like, Kennedy's long dead, but he was banging actresses like crazy. He and Bobby Kennedy would, like, apparently double team Marilyn Monroe, and it was far worse than just sitting down and having consensual sex. And so nobody wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole, right? But okay. But he says shit.
I like
He
how it
says
was Stormy
incendiary.
Daniels too. That actress from Jim Wynorski, with the Witches of Breastwick.
Yep.
She's not even the prettiest one.
I think she's.
Not my
Well, I mean,
type.
come on, she's.
I like this girl on the right.
Yeah, that's because Stormy Daniels is your classic blonde bombshell, and the girl on the right is your classic button-down, pretty conservative type, and you like the latter. But yeah, what can you say? Trump had sex with a porn star. He cheated on his wife. There's two things wrong with that. If you really want to push the issue and think, and, suggest he's a bad person, well, then on the left, some of your biggest heroes are the same types of bad people, monsters. Bill Clinton didn't just have intramarital
I'm
sex.
laughing how they kissed on the lips.
Like, Bill Clinton didn't just have extramarital affairs. Bill Clinton committed sexual assault, most likely, but certainly sexual harassment. The Kennedys, too. You do not want to go digging into the sexual proclivity of your American presidents. But anyways, yeah, Trump.
I'm laughing at the fat guy on the Indian guy, not at the something else.
I'm laughing at the fat guy on the Indian guy for context. Yeah, but okay, let's end the Trump thing with some sort of final statement. I think he's an anomaly. I think he's not a good person, but he's not the worst person, and I think people need to look at what he's doing with more nuance and stop getting distracted from the things he says, quite frankly. He's a mediocre, status quo, run-of-the-mill president, but his anomaly is that he's not a politician, clearly, but he also has he's a big fat loudmouth, and too many people focus on that. Stop. He's not going to quit, and it's not going to hurt him. It just can't. And settle in for the next 3 years, or prepare for the next 7 years of Trump. But we are going to see a Republican candidate challenging Trump for the Republican ticket. And that's going to be interesting. And yeah, politics. Yeah, anything more you want to add, Jeff?
That's what people want when they watch a commentary about Beerfest.
So that's your
This will
final
be
point.
charming in 30 years because then it'll be like retro, the discussion on the politics.
But you know what's funny though? I find that we say things that sometimes come to pass. We make these predictions. I don't know that anything's going to come to pass here, but we have to upload this quickly
The
because
mark of the
our
horror.
last but think about the Weinstein commentary. We were talking about how awful Hollywood is, and I said at one point, I wouldn't be surprised because there's this rumor about a pedophilic cabal of Hollywood actors who have forced intercourse
Holy
onto
smokes.
underage people. And I literally said in the Weinstein commentary, I said, I wouldn't be surprised that if we hear about some major Hollywood figure having underage sex with somebody, and literally a week after we recorded that, Kevin Spacey's scandal broke, right? So maybe the shit we're saying now about politics will come to pass. So we'll upload this, and it's garbage content. It's like trite. Nobody cares. But at the same time, maybe we make some sort of prediction, like we did with the prediction about the Death Star being in the Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah, we got to
All
talk about
right.
the new Star Wars movie. So I was saying how that's Luke Skywalker, the Jedi Master, exactly. And it is. Ugh.
I know it's interesting. Mark Hamill's like that's not the direction I would go in, but yeah, because basically your character hasn't developed at all. The first glimpse we got of Luke was this whiny um, um, kid who wanted to just go his own way, right? What do we get with the Last Jedi? You know, Rey shows up. She's clearly gone to a lot of trouble to bring him the lightsaber. And what's Luke's reaction? I don't care. I'm done with Jedi's. Wah wah wah. You know.
I like when she's
And yeah, you were
meditating and he
right.
tickles her
It's
with the leaf, and then he like hits her, and it's like you can't have Luke Skywalker as the ultimate source of wisdom for the Jedi Order. It's just ridiculous.
and I think they realized that because then it was like, yeah, Luke's character hasn't developed at all. Yoda's got to show up and teach Luke yet another lesson. It's like
Yeah, Yoda shows up
you
and lights it on fire.
I was kind of like, what's Yoda doing? Like I thought they were like because they were so that movie was so bad about um, composition and characterization, and you're like, is Yoda going to be revealed to be like a bad character? He does something to piss Luke off, and then he laughs, and it's like, ha ha
Well, and
ha,
then
fuck you, Luke.
Like I like
But
when they blow Princess Leia out of the ship, and you're like, oh, okay, well that's a good way for her to go. Rest in peace. And then they bring her back to life, and she floats to the spaceship. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Let this woman die.
and they imply she has some sort of force control, and it brings her back to that hatch or something. But with Luke, I was like, are they going to make Yoda out to be a bad character? He's laughing so sinisterly. It's not like Yoda at all. But then, okay, he's typical Yoda. He explains, there's nothing about these books and this tree that it captures what it is to be a Jedi. The knowledge is up in your head. These four books mean nothing. And it's like, oh, typical Yoda. But okay, what's interesting is they should have introduced Yoda a little bit better. He never laughed at Luke. That was
The
like
books were
Yoda
gone
putting
though.
on airs, but that was Yoda putting on airs like he did in the Empire, right? Like or in Empire Strikes Back. Like he was pretending to be obnoxious, and they go right back to
The
Yoda
Jedi
being
always
obnoxious.
do that though. That's one quirk with the Jedi. They're liars.
Oh yeah, but I don't think that's intentional, right? Like that's like backfilling. Like when you think about it, the Jedi lie to Luke a lot. Like your father was a great pilot, and then Darth Vader killed him. It's like okay, that's not true. It maybe in some weird metaphorical sense it's true, but it's like why are you lying? And then Yoda doesn't know. He doesn't tell Luke anything he wants to know until it's like I guess we have to tell him the truth. Eh? It's like yes, truth. We must tell him. I don't. That's not what they said, but it's kind of what happened. But like Yoda looked too much like the Yoda putting on airs, pretending to be obnoxious just to test Luke's patience, and it's like bad idea. I'm like Yoda's a turncoat. Like what's the deal? But then Yoda becomes Yoda. But the other thing was then Yoda is once again teaching Luke, who's learned nothing about what it is to be a true Jedi. If like Luke's seriously training other Jedi's at this point. It's been 40 years. And Yoda has to come along and be like, "Hey Luke, here's more shit you got to learn." Like nobody bought in the Jedi that his training was finished because yeah, Luke has all the moves of a Jedi, but he's got all the impetuousness and all of the lack of critical thinking of the original Luke. And that's exactly what's carried over to The Last Jedi. Luke is that typical whiny, brooding, like self-centered asshole, and Yoda tells him so, as much. And it's like, you could have done the Luke characters, you could have done so much more of a service by making him develop, making him become more mature. He is now the new Yoda, but he wasn't, and I don't know. That's a bad direction to go, because what's he spending 40 years just being a whiny piss fucking head? I don't know if that's
I like when he
term.
drinks the milk from that weird creature. Like, it's an interesting scene, but man. Oh, and then the Empire. It's like, well, what's your plan? Well, there's only 2 rebel ships left, so let's slowly chase them for a day and a half until they run out of fuel. Okay, well, why don't you
Yes,
call in a few more ships out front, or why don't you send some of the ships that are beside you out front and pincer them? Like, bizarre.
it was a bad move. It was a badly plotted movie.
And as soon as I heard that, I was like, this is gonna be a long movie. Like, as soon as you hear, oh yeah, we're gonna chase them down for 18 hours, you're like, this is gonna be a long movie.
It's not going to be 18 hours in real time, but it's going to add at least 45 minutes to the fucking movie. And also, my main problem with the movie is, okay, there's some consistency among the Star Wars movies, except Leia goes from being ultra assertive, and the Rebel Alliance goes from being super transparent and open and strategic to being quiet, secretive, and conniving. Like, Leia was far too permissible on the one hand, with like excusing Poe Dameron's behavior. He fucked everything up royally for everybody. He caused a mutiny essentially. And there's like this scene where Laura Dern's character is like, she's rubbing his face and she's like, I like him. And then Leia's like, me too. It's like, why? He caused a mutiny and he fucked up your plans. But also, you shouldn't have kept it a secret. The end of Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie, was all about transparency and strategy. And everyone had to be included because the plan had to go off to a T. And you're thinking, well, what if there were spies in the ranks? And that's the thing about the Rebel Alliance. They couldn't afford to treat some people as spies or suspect some people as spies because their plan lived or died based on everybody understanding the entire plan and it going to plan. And okay, so you tell a spy what's going on, then they might leak and things fail. But if you don't, things will fail anyways. They were desperate. So they were transparent. They were strategic. Leia was assertive. Leia was no nonsense. And in the last movie, she's just far too permissible, but also secretive and scheming.
And not only that, and then she's like, well, I'll stay with the ship and let it go down. And then Leia's like, okay, bye.
Yeah, like, okay, whatever, because they don't establish characters in that movie. You don't have any care for anybody who's new, right? And they just make these decisions, and it's like, yeah, we have to do that for the sake of the plot, essentially, and it makes no sense.
When we have the pizza discussion, you're like, no, I don't accept the money. And I'm like, take the money. You're like, no. And I'm like, take the money. It's like, you know my rule 3 times. But here it is with Leia. It's like, no, Leia, I'm going to stay with the ship. If it was Dave, it was like, no, I'm going to stay here too. Or you go, I'll stay. I'm older. You're more useful. It's like, no, seriously, I'm gonna stay. I need to do it. But with her, it's like, no, okay, see you later.
Goodbye.
I'm a dead actress, but let's just keep me in the movies, just never let my character die.
And that's the greatest shame, right? Like, Leia's character is turned completely on its head. She goes from being assertive, transparent, open, strategic to being too permissible, secretive, and scheming. And you can't bring Carrie Fisher back to redeem that, an original quality of hers. She goes out as a weaker character. And it's like, Jesus. But people are defending that movie at all costs, and you can't really say that because, I don't know. Everybody thinks it's so great, but it isn't. It was a badly plotted movie.
It was really bad. It's the worst Star Wars movie. It's worse than the second one that you like, the Attack of the Clones or whatever. It's worse than that.
I still think Attack of the Clones is better than Jedi, Force Awakens, Rogue One, and of course The Last Jedi, because I don't know what to say. The movie was a badly made movie, and the thing is, it's as bad as Justice League. It's as bad as Superman versus Batman or Batman v Superman or whatever, and people have no problems with the massive amounts of criticism leveled at those movies. Why is Star Wars such a sacred cow that we can't say, You know, there's an entire set piece involving Rose and Finn and Poe Dameron that absolutely is for no purpose whatsoever. It's completely superfluous, and they know this. Like, this is absolutely what they knew when they made this, and they're like, it's too late. We filmed it all. We have to tack on a scene where Finn says, even if this was all for nothing, it was worth it to see the casino destroyed. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, that was just 20
it was
minutes.
all for
It
nothing.
was just really, really bad. Yeah.
It was all for nothing, and it. But also, did they even give that information to the Benicio del Toro character? Like, he turns on a dime too, and all of a sudden, oh, so we're supposed to believe he's a nihilist and he's an opportunist, and that's it? Like, he's likable, he's helping them, and all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's not the Star Wars that I know. Like that, where he turns it on a dime. Like, I expected him to like get in his ship and then like start shooting, and then they blow it up, and he's like, no, see ya.
Like, Star Wars was romantic fiction. That's what they established. And it's one thing to go the Poe route, where everybody's nihilistic and everybody's making jokey jokes all the time. Like, everything is subverted by the fact that here's what Luke would have done. Here's what Luke's going to do. But actually, Luke is still the whiny brat that he is. But everybody's going to make a stupid joke, and everybody's going to turn on a dime, and nobody's going to have any values. That's a complete departure. It's fine to turn around, to go that route, but you have to have a natural transition to that. And they just didn't do it. The movie was just abrupt decisions by characters, abrupt character development, and it was just unbelievable, and it was badly paced. Rose is a character that, okay, she has potential, but there's no establishing that she loves people, she values love, she cares about Finn, and then she saves him, and she has this long monologue, and it's like, you haven't earned that as a character. Like, it was just such a bad movie, and yet there are people defending it on the grounds that, oh, everybody who doesn't like it is not liking it for political reasons or sexist reasons and things like that. And then there are just Star Wars purists who just think you're being a hater. Well, no, this is bad. Star Wars has been bad since the original movies, the prequels. It's been bad since Jedi, let's face it.
Since Jedi, yeah.
And it's, the criticisms are not unwarranted, and it's a beloved first two movies. But the biggest problem for me is just turning Leia on her head, you know, and the fact that Carrie Fisher is dead now and we'll never see Leia redeem herself in the third movie. But what is the third movie going to do? It's going to be more of the same. It's going to be bullshit.
That's going to be the last Star Wars movie I see. That's all I'm saying. That number 9, I'll see it once. And then I'm not going to be seeing all these Han Solo spin-offs and Chewbacca's family vacation in the RV country and Jabba the Hutt's Chinatown noir crime drama full of nudity with him having sex with tentacle women. I'm not watching any of those.
I'd rather watch the holiday special as canon than watch basically everything after Empire. Like, it's just... I've never seen a movie make so much money that shit the bed so hard, but has such a fan base and such a politically motivated backing that it's just going to keep happening. They're going to make bad movies and no one's going to take them.
Well, it's like the Marvel. It's just like Marvel. Like, I haven't gone to any of the recent Marvel movies. I've stopped. Just done. And DC.
Marvel. DC is bad. Like, okay, controversial possibly what I'm about to say, but Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, great actress. If she wasn't in that movie, fuck that movie. It's garbage. But her characterization of I don't know anything about Wonder Woman. I've never read the comics. I don't care. But her in Batman vs Superman, I'm not gonna. This is also controversial. Ben Affleck's characterization of Batman, great, loved it. Gal Gadot's characterization of Wonder Woman, great, I loved it. But the movies were cookie-cutter bullshit action set pieces that were bland as hell and went nowhere, and they were bad, so bad. People are touting Wonder Woman like it's this amazing, amazing movie, and it was bland as hell. The action sequences were not fun to watch. The characterization, save for Gal Gadot, who saved that movie, that was the one redeeming feature.
Yeah, Gal Gadot, no one's complaining about. I've got 5 Wonder Woman cups because I like Gal Gadot.
No one's complaining. No one's complaining about the characterization of Wonder Woman either, right? Like, okay, Gal Gadot does a great job. She's just amazing on screen. But Wonder Woman was also endearing as hell, and it's like, why is she not in a better movie? Like, why? And why are people praising this movie all out of proportion? Like, you need that negative criticism to keep filmmakers on their toes. But the response is just, you know, it meets political criteria. Sometimes that's all it is, really. And it's a good movie, and it's not. It's no Beerfest, which is what we're watching.
I had one more
Batman.
one thing I gotta say about Star Wars. Like I like Yoda, but like when people have like my dad has this thing that says all the sayings of Yoda. It's like do or do not. There is no try. And a girl pointed out to me that that's what the Sith say because the Sith deal in absolutes and the Jedi don't, which is interesting. But anyways, the thing I gotta say about Yoda is that's not Yoda talking. That is a puppet. And George Lucas is speaking through the puppet. So when you're treating these words like words of wisdom, you might as well just have George Lucas's face there, or tattoo George Lucas's face on your arm, because that's who's actually talking. That's where you're getting your philosophy and wisdom teachings from in our miserable society.
I'm sorry, I'm missing something.
Well, it's like if when people treat Yoda like he's a source of wisdom. They're like, I love Yoda, and they tattoo his sayings on their arms. They tattoo their sayings on the body. I'm like, you just tattooed the saying of a puppet, and the person who wrote that saying was George Lucas. Do you know George Lucas? Do you really want things that come out of George Lucas's mouth being tattooed on your body? Because I don't.
Oh, you know what though? I'll say this about George Lucas. Again, it's a question. It's an issue of so much potential. Yeah, I think the yoga. I think the yoga sayings were great, and as well as the Yoda sayings. But yeah, clearly it came from George Lucas, and clearly a lot of bullshit has come from George Lucas in the last few years. But at the same time, I was in a ordinary language philosophy class last year, and there was the question of what do people mean when they say try. We say somebody tried to do something, you know, like Donald Trump tried to run for president. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like ordinary language use suggests that when you say somebody tried to do something, it implies they failed. They made an attempt, but they failed. But technically, he did try, and he succeeded. But somebody in the class, it was actually a professor who was on sabbatical who was sitting in. He was like, it's kind of like Yoda, right? We don't say, you know, try when somebody, you know, fails. Or we don't say try when somebody succeeds. It's like do or do not. There is no try. There is no try, you know, this sort of thing. And everybody laughed, but it's true. The word try. But I mean, that's kind of the resonance of the claim. You know, do or do not, there is no try. I'm getting that wrong because
no, that's exactly right. That's the exact thing.
Oh, okay. And that's just it. Don't talk about trying because that suggests you're going to fail. And that was Yoda's kind of his point, and that's actually, it echoes ordinary language philosophy. Don't talk about trying unless somebody fails. That's what we mean when we say try. Like one time I tried to, you know, get through the end of this commentary without having to take another piss, and someone will think, oh, but you couldn't make it.
There's like
no,
all
I
these
tried and I
piss scenes.
succeeded. Yeah, I gotta go take a whiz again, but like I'm alluding to that, but there is wisdom in Yoda, and it comes from George Lucas. And George Lucas is legitimately brilliant, but at the same time,
if those sayings came from someone else, that's fine. Like if George Lucas had a prostitute, porn actress mistress who he was banging, and she said that, and then that's where the saying came from, that's fine. And then he paid $100,000 to cover up the fact that that's where the saying came, that's fine. I just don't want those words to come from George Lucas. I'm not comfortable with that.
I actually see George Lucas as lost potential. I like that those came from him. I think that's evidence that he's a tremendous talent. But like any talent, something has to rein you in, right? And it's rare that it's someone so profound, so wise, can do that consistently. And you need feedback. George Lucas never got it. Right, like he had sycophants, and he had people supporting him the whole time, and that's why it's so hilarious to see that documentary where George Lucas sees the first cut of episode 1, and he's like, "What did he say? I think I went a little too far in some parts." It's like everybody's like, "Yeah, maybe," and it's kind of like that scene in it's Simpsons. It's like, who told him to say that? Did you like it? You know, like if you liked it, then I did. If you didn't, you know. Do you really mean that? Yes. then yes, you did go too far. Like it's just I don't know.
Well, once.
Okay, I gotta take a
Okay.
whiz. I'm sorry, but we've got like another 20 minutes. But okay, finish what you're
No,
saying.
you go for whiz, and I'll go on a little.
Good.
Speech.
Good. Do that.
Okay, got it.
I'm out.
So in Star Wars, the first movie, here are the people who are introduced: Luke Skywalker, C-3PO, R2-D2, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Han Solo, Chewbacca, the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing, Princess Leia, the Death Star, the Imperial Stormtrooper, Darth Vader. Wow, that's 12. A TIE Fighter, 13. Just 12, 13 amazing things all introduced. Lightsaber, 14. Jedi, 15. The Force, 16. All these interesting concepts come in the first movie. Second movie, what do we get? We get to see the Emperor. I would say, and I've always found the Emperor to be very interesting. And we get Yoda, who's someone new, and someone could say Lando Calrissian. So there's 3, and Boba Fett. And then after that, you're done. You don't need to see the Return of the Jedi. You don't need Jabba the Hutt. You don't need the Ewoks. You don't need to ever see the third movie. You don't need the prequels. That's it. And I'm a big fan of Emperor Palpatine. I like that fight at the end, but I would have preferred that the Empire be a mystery and that it be just a tragedy where, yeah, we tried to rebel, we lost, end of movie. I would like Return of the Jedi gone, the 3 prequels gone, and the other movies, the 3 new ones with the destroy all of them. I like that girl, the attractive Jedi girl. I like the angry, evil Jedi guy. They're fun, but they're not worth saving the movies for. Just burn all of them.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that you said in Empire we're introduced to, or in Jedi we're introduced to Boba Fett and Jabba the Hutt, right? Again, a testament to George Lucas's understanding of how the plot should unfold. Have some new interesting characters, concepts more generally.
Boba Fett's in Empire.
Is he?
Yeah, because he captures Han Solo.
Oh, yes, that's right. But have something new in your iterations. But he had that deleted scene, right, where Jabba and Boba Fett are featured in the
Jabba is in the first one, so we do have every good thing in the first 2 movies. The only thing we're missing is Yoda in the second. That's the only one that we're missing on the first movie.
But it's funny, he had the foresight to cut them out of the movie. Not necessarily because he needed new characters and interesting elements in the later, in the sequels, but he cut them out. Good. But then he goes and puts them all in there. And it's like, again, it's like, George Lucas, what are you thinking? You know?
Well, let's just look at Boba Fett. Probably one of the most loved characters. Second movie, very competent bounty hunter who's just cold as shit, gets his money, and he's like, fuck off. See you later, Han Solo. I got you. Third movie, wah, I get hit in the back and fall in a Sarlacc pit. And then in the second Attack of the Clones, it's movie, oh, did you know every stormtrooper is a clone of Boba Fett's dad or something like that? It's like, wow, what a revelation. That made all the movies so much better. All of the incompetent stormtroopers are clones of Boba Fett's dad. Holy shit.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, what kind of, like, at this point he's like, we'll entertain him with twists as opposed to we'll entertain him with interesting plotting. And that's a bad move as a writer. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we should end this discussion and focus on the movie.
Like, Star Wars has been discussed to death, but we had to get it out of the way because of the new Star Wars movie. Sorry, fans. Oh, yeah, okay. We're now going to focus on Beerfest.
Sorry, fans. Sorry, fans.
I don't think we've discussed Beerfest for an hour straight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they've got the outfits right for the Beerfest team.
So they've frozen Kevin Heffernan's character in Carbonite, and yeah. All right. Oh, we should almost do like a new commentary format where it's like rewind commentary. We go back like 40 minutes. But okay, yeah. So they're the American team, and they're gonna beat the Germans.
And there's the dead guy who's replaced with his twin brother.
Yeah. Kevin Heffernan's character Phil Crundle has died, and now we have what is even his name? The new Crundle, and I want to comment on that. I hate when they kill likable characters in movies, and I almost turned this movie off. And I think the logical move, because they already established that Phil can drink almost himself to death and eat food that gets lodged in his esophagus, but he'll look like he's dead, and his wife revives him, and he's got this ham that he coughs up that is lodged in his throat, and he's like, ham, and he eats it and he's fine. So the joke should have been Phil dies, and then when he falls onto Jace Chandrasekhar's Barry Badranath in the funeral scene, everyone should have been like, and Barry Badranath is shaking, and all of a sudden Phil Crundle's character should have coughed up some ham and been like, ham, and then he's alive again. And I was like, oh, he's really dead? And then all of a sudden his twin shows up. Okay, that saves the movie, but I think really the comedic move that would have worked best would be a callback to Phil is really not dead. He coughs up some ham, and he's like, ham, and then he walks out of the room, and everything goes back to normal. I think that would have been brilliant, but okay, it's still okay. They save it. His twin brother shows up, and now they're competing with the Germans. And here we're coming up to a scene where...
But they also said something like, oh, and I have all the exact same characteristics as my brother, so we don't need to be reintroduced. And they're like, well, that's good.
I taught him everything he knows, and he's told me everything about you guys. It's like, I already know you guys. And then they just pick up with it. That's a good comedic move, too. You couldn't have that if Phil was alive. So what do you want? Like, either one. I think the one was more natural, but I think the move they went with, the plot they went with, actually was a funny observation. Like, here's your replacement. Oh, yeah.
I don't feel really tense about this battle, but I haven't been paying super close attention. I've been noticing a lot. I said this before, that in the background there's a lot of beautiful women with elderly men.
And the titty's out. Okay, what we missed was they're drinking from the boot, right? And the fluid dynamics of the boot is such that when you tip it, the beer flows out, but the tip of the boot, the toe of the boot, develops a bubble. And the bubble creates a vacuum. And once a certain amount of fluid has been released from the boot, the bubble forces the fluid out, and it pours into your face. And that's why everyone loses the boot challenge. But the trick is you have to turn the boot as the bubble's developing so that you don't get that vacuum pressure. And then you can just drink it like a standard glass of beer. But what happens is Monique apparently was a spy for the Wolfhausen family.
So she distracted.
And she distracted Phil Crundle's brother by saying, I killed your brother, and he squealed like a pig. And Phil knows how to drink from the boot, but because she distracts him, he fucks up. So now what they're doing is they're saying, we have your beer recipe. You want it. We'll give it to you if you have a sudden death elimination. And here comes the ultimate challenge. Everyone drinks from one of those boots. But yeah, the trick is you turn the boot at just the right time, and you don't have that bubble develop, and you can swallow the beer. It's really brilliant. I mean, it's really... Strawberry beer. You said you like low carbs.
That's how you run an efficient organization. You attack your fellow members, and then people like...
Yeah, that's the paradox of these movies, right? Like, people who just kill anyone who makes the slightest mistake. No one's going to work for you. But here's a theory of mine, or a hypothesis, more accurately. Monique did such an amazing job in this movie that producers took note of her acting ability, and then they put her in the movie Precious, and I believe she was nominated for an Academy Award, but I want to say she actually won. Maybe I'm wrong about the win.
I think she did. Yeah, I saw that movie, yeah.
And I think this movie should be credited as the movie that really displayed her acting talent. Like, she's great in this movie. She plays this spy, a turncoat, and then all of a sudden, she's like, oh, you said like you like strawberries, and you said you wanted me to lose weight, and it was like low carb, and
I don't know. Seeing this movie, it's like, you know who would be great in our movie Precious? This actress from Beerfest. Yes. It's like that's
You
like
know
a
what though?
serious movie. It's like Schindler's List level of
Yes,
seriousness.
but producers don't care about the success of the movie. They don't care about the premise. They don't care about the genre. They care about acting talent. And I think they saw Monique and they're like, this actress is the only actress who could play this role, and she knocks it out of the park. We need a character like her in a movie that features, you know, okay, like obviously they need African American characters, and they need someone who looks like Monique. They know what Monique's talent is all about. They know what her capability is. I think they saw this movie and they're like, she's a natural. You know, she's who we need, and it this launched her career as a serious dramatic actress. This movie's far better than people give it credit for. It's criminally underrated, but I mean, like, Monique gets an Academy Award nomination, possibly a win, and this guy, that actor talking, gets an Academy Award nomination and a legitimate win, a definite win. Like, this movie preceded so much talent coming out in Hollywood.
The Eye of the Jew.
And then that's the thing too. Like your Latino actor playing a Jewish character who has the eye of the Jew. But I think people were fine with it because Germans are. It's fine with saying Germans are anti-Semitic. Here's the
Oh,
CG
here's the
beer.
CG beer. Okay.
Whatever. What are you gonna do?
It's a cartoon. I can't watch this.
Yeah. Eric Christian Olsen again. Great at what he does.
How many beers are you up
Had
to?
a successful 11, 12,
How many calories are in a beer?
140, 150.
God.
Yeah, I've peed 3 times, but I mean, do I sound intoxicated?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. I see beer. Beer affects me like I assume cocaine affects people. Like if I get up at like 7 in the morning, and it's like 10 at night, and I'm like, yeah, I'm about ready to go to bed for midnight, be asleep by midnight, and all of a sudden it's like I'll start drinking beers. I'm up till like noon the next day minimum. This shit keeps me awake, and it keeps me alert, and it keeps me fucking garrulous, talkative, loquacious.
Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, the other thing is, you can drink it all, but if you spill a drop, you lose, right?
Why don't they grab the drop? I guess they didn't have time.
They tried to, and it slipped between their fingers. But it wouldn't even matter because
'Cause it was
a
too
drop that hits their hand, I'm pretty sure they'd be like, well, we have to make a judge's decision. And this is kind of like, this guy's a cold-blooded murderer, right? But like Jurgen Prochnow's final scene is like, well, I respect you now. And it's the classic, I'm starting to like these guys. But then he does this, here you
At
go.
least he didn't welch on the bet or something.
Nope, he's honorable, but at the same time, he's not. He killed his fucking girlfriend, who was played by Monique, right?
Is there a lot of credits in this movie? It seems like there's 10 more minutes of video on this. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm starting to like this. Whoa.
If you brought a real camera into the red light district of Amsterdam, somebody would come and break your camera. Like, apparently, that's the one thing that's not allowed. No photography. I don't know personally. I've never been to Amsterdam. I've never been to a brothel because I never have to pay for sex. I get it constantly from every woman who has ever crossed my path. But what I've heard is, if you bring a camera into the red light district and you want to take pictures of women like that in Amsterdam, some big tough guy will come and break your camera. If you persist, he'll kick your ass.
Did you tell that Willie Nelson, or maybe someone else did? It's like, What's it's like if Woody Allen or Woody Nelson is giving you a blowjob, what's the one thing you don't want to
Yeah,
hear?
I love that.
So I'm not
Yeah,
Woody
that joke
Nelson.
is. Well, no, we got to tell the joke. What's the worst thing a person giving a blowjob to Willie Nelson can hear after giving him a
Yeah,
blowjob?
I'm not Woody Nelson.
And I'm not Willie Nelson.
Oh, Willie Nelson. I'm saying Woody Nelson.
Hey, did you hear about? Did you hear that
Potfest? Did
Willie
that ever
Nelson
come?
died though? No, but did you hear that Willie Nelson died?
No, I didn't. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of news.
Oh,
So that
yeah, he
guy's
was
in. So that
playing
guy
on.
is in.
Oh fuck! Come on, man. You gotta be my straight man here. Like, imagine I tell you someone dies. Ask how'd he
How'd he
die?
die?
Did you hear that Willie Nelson? Did no? Let me ask the question. Did you hear that Willie Nelson died?
No. How did he die?
He was playing on the road again.
Ah.
That's such a dumb joke. Yeah, but okay. To reiterate the joke. Hey, what's the worst thing you could hear after blowing Willie Nelson? I'm not.
I'm not Willie
I
Nelson. But you already told the
no.
joke five times. You can't keep telling the same joke.
No, but we have to set it up in a way that is actually, provided
You're
in a
drunk
way
and
that's
it's
natural.
disgusting.
So, no, I will say I'll ask you the question, and you'll say what? What's the worst thing you could
Holy
hear?
shit.
Okay, what's the worst thing you could hear after blowing Willie Nelson? You gotta say what? Okay, whatever. Forget it.
That'd be weird
Yes,
to be
this
an
is like
extra in a
the
dancing in the background.
And especially if the actors expect you to participate and you're like paid $20 just to be there, to stand there and not like act like you're on film for the day. And then like, okay, now it's time for you to dance.
It's like, okay.
I gave you a plate of blintzes to paint my fence. Those blintzes were lousy. It's interesting, the combination of deleted scenes and outtakes.
I feel like the unfortunate thing about this movie is I feel like I shouldn't have been doing a commentary for this movie the first time. I should have watched it, but I didn't own the movie. I actually bought the Blu-ray 30 minutes after you suggested it, so it's in the mail towards me right now. It's just not fair to a comedy because comedy's so dependent on hearing the dialogue.
Oh yeah, and hearing all the jokes, seeing all the gags. But even you have to admit that all things fall between positive and negative furies. But even you have to admit that there's a lot of funny things that you saw in here, even though you're not watching it from start to finish.
Yeah, no, it's a funny movie, I'd say. I still like planes, trains, and
has.
automobiles, but like this, I would say this movie is charming. It's like that puppet movie made by the guys from South Park. Like it's that kind of movie.
And it's a clinic in great comedic performances. It's a clinic in comedy. Like nowadays, people make comedies where you get like Seth Rogen or some actor like that who plays the same character in every movie, and all you write the jokes for them, they improvise, but there's nothing else going on. It's like, here is a setting where we tell our joke, and here's the joke, and sometimes it's funny. But in this movie, it's like, yeah, when the background characters are doing crazy things, everybody's improvising, everybody's going off, and it's like there's the funny joke, there's a funny line, but there's also the funny reaction from the male prostitute character in the background, and it's like, this is how you make a comedy. Broken Lizard, they know how to do this. I don't know why their comedies though are so like critically panned, and they don't make as much money as they should. Like, this is what we should be expecting of comedy movie in this day and age. Like, it's got to be more than just a vehicle for jokes and that's it. That's sufficient, I think. But at the same time, Like, give us so much more, and these guys do it. And you see that in 1970s comedies, you see it in 80s comedies. You know, like Marx Brothers movies. Yeah, going back to like when vaudeville comedians were making movies. Yeah, well, the movies were a vehicle for jokes, but the jokes were insanely well done. Like this was just performances that were so good. But you don't get that with like a Seth Rogen movie. You don't get that with
Gerber Pictures.
Bill Gerber.
Distributed by Warner Brother Pictures.
A Time Warner company. Yeah.
That was Beerfest.
One of the best comedies ever made. All right. So anyways, I think we've explained the Trump phenomenon well enough. We've talked about Star Wars.
Yeah, we covered Beerfest. I think we'll discuss Beerfest when we're watching like The Passion of the Christ or something. That'll be the time to discuss the subtleties of Beerfest.
Yeah, stay tuned for our Beerfest commentary. Thanks for listening. Yeah.